I was a fisherman at Grimsby. I had my own fishing boat, and it's one of those organisations it catches your eye, and I always joke you kind of open the door and you peep in, see what's going on, you get sucked in and you're there for life. I have a massive sense of duty, and I can fulfil this being a lifeboatman. I just love it. I can't put it into a lot of words, but the enjoyment of actually doing what we do, helping people, driving that lifeboat, you know, and just working as a team of like-minded people. You don't get that anymore. My main role, believe it or not, is the management of the station. You've got, if all of that's working well, when we actually go to sea, it works. You've got to make sure your stores are in place, all your first aid equipment's in date, all the maintenance is done, the training's up to date, and that's the main part of my job. And then when I go to sea, you're in command. And if anybody wants to know what the burden of command feels like, they need to go on top of a 7-class lifeboat in a gale of wind, out with the lads. It's a lonely place. I've always said it's the loneliest job I've ever done, being a coxswain on a lifeboat. You're not actually part of what's going on the deck. You just give the instructions and the lads are doing it, and you're stood above looking down, and that's one or two of the shouts where I find it's difficult to get rid of, because you look at what the lads are actually doing, and yes, you can move the boat, you can do things, but it's out of your control. The biggest plus we've got is most of the people who come down to Spurn Point are lifeboatmen from another lifeboat station. And it might be a different boat, and they come from a volunteer to a paid position, but lifeboating's lifeboating. And that's what we really look for in a person when we sort of enrol anybody down here or we employ them.
My job role here is obviously to look after the boat, all the mechanical side of the boat, the electronic side. My job basically is when the bell goes to get the boat up and running. Once the boat's up and running, then I hand the boat over to the coxswain.
Right, my job here at Humber involves me being an assistant mechanic, so I stand in for the mechanics when they're on leave. I would help the mechanics with anything that they need. Apart from that side, then I'm a crewman on the deck, so anything on the deck basically is my job as well.
Yeah. When the pagers go off, if we've got to go to an incident, it's my job to get the lifeboat to that incident. I've got to put the positions of the casualties in, then inform the coxswain where he has to go, direction, time it's going to take us to get onto the scene, and things like that.
Most of our day gets spent doing the maintenance, not only on the boat but also on the shore crew. There's generators on the shore. We have a boarding boat, a davit, and just make sure all the plants are up and ready to go in case we get a call out.
What we're actually doing now is we're just literally slipping the moorings. If you notice, we've come out on the boarding boat. We leave the boarding boat on the moorings and drop everything off, and then it leaves the lifeboat free to do whatever we wish. When we came back after a shout or whenever we're out, we just do the opposite. We put the moorings onto the big boat, slip the little one and back into the shore. VTS on the lifeboat, very good morning. Just slipped the moorings on exercise. We'll be in and around the Bull Anchorage area.
Thank you.
That tells the control tower what we're actually out and what we're doing. It's not the Coast Guard, but they control the whole of the Humber. They're the Port Authority and everything, so we're in their waters, so it's right and proper that we talk to them. What we're out today is I won't launch the lifeboat without making some sort of use of it. We like to spend the supporters' money wisely, and even though we've got a camera crew today, we're going to treat today as an exercise. So we have to run the lifeboat, so it's a good excuse to take her out. 1 second. All right.
Have we got the cutter coming out on your starboard side?
Cutter on the starboard side. Cheers, buddy. As you can see, we never stop. There's the lads are there, my lookout all the time. There's a pilot launch coming out here. They've told me in plenty of time, and we share all this information. But to go back is, we're going to come out today. We're going to do some drills. We're on probably one of the biggest rivers the second biggest river in the country. 80-odd shipping movements a day, and you look around today and you think, what on earth is he talking about? There's one ship on the horizon, so we can't even have a play with a ship. So what we'll try and do, we'll simulate is some of the drills. On a lifeboat we have belt and braces for everything. two of everything. So what I'm going to do today is I'll throw it at the lads. We've got a steering failure, and a big multi-million-pound lifeboat like this, we go back to the old tiller. We can actually rig a tiller and steer it by manual, and I might throw a pellet over the side just to simulate somebody in the water. Usually when things go wrong, it goes wrong massively. But the nice thing with the lifeboat is we've got plenty of redundancy built in with all the different bits and bobs, so if something goes wrong we can just carry on. So we'll steam over into some clear water. Even though there's no ships, we are actually right in the middle of the shipping channel, so even though there's nothing on the horizon. We always talk about Spurn Point as being a beautiful, nice, gorgeous place, but it's got some teeth. It's got some nasty teeth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off the point end and I'm going to show its nasty side of Spurn Point. If you look out, it's lovely and calm, beautiful beach, but it's very deep and the current past it is very fast flowing. Fortunately over the years it's never happened, but it's always been one of my biggest worries that people look at it and think, oh, let's have a little swim off here, but it's extremely dangerous. It goes from the edge of the water down to probably 5-10 metres in the length of the lifeboat. And the current when it's flowing is really, really fast. So what we'll do is I'll take the boat in, you can see the echo sound and you'll see how close we can actually come to the beach, and hopefully the viewers will realise if they are at Spurn Point it has got some teeth to it. And to look at the echo sounder, the lifeboat is still in 6 metres of water. That's deeper than the deep end at Scatterbaths. It's close to the beach. What you can see even now on a lovely calm day, it's starting to swirl around, is where we are now. The tide can actually come past here at about 4 or 5 miles an hour. Even Spinks couldn't swim as fast as that to get back to the shore. It's a very shallow river. It gets rough very quick and it gets calm very quick. That can catch the smaller vessels out. You can get a small vessel that can be out today and we get a squall come through and we can have 2-3 metre seas in minutes, and it can be gone again in minutes, and it's that sort of thing what we have to keep a watch at. We've got a lot of tides, strong tides, very strong swirling tides. Underpowered small boat can struggle a little bit just with the tide alone. The boat it's the biggest of all the lifeboats in the RNLI fleet. She's a 7 class. We name all our lifeboats after rivers. The biggest river in the country is the Severn, so hence we're on the 7 class lifeboat. 17 metres, all-weather lifeboat. We can go out in any weather. We have actually been out in a Force 11 on a shout with this one. We've actually had it on its side in some pretty ropey weather. Extremely capable, competent boat. She has a big wheelhouse and very little draft. All the weight is very low down. If we actually capsize this boat, she would roll back up again. She can steam at 25 knots, which is around about 28-29 miles an hour. We can't do it in crazy weather, but on a fairly calmish, moderate day, there's no problem at all as steaming along at full speed. Capabilities, they say we can get 100 and odd people aboard on a rescue. I was involved in an exercise out in the Solent where we put 100 people on a lifeboat in 4 minutes out of life rafts. In reality is, well, I've been on this lifeboat, we've actually rescued 61 people. We brought 61 people in one go. So she's got a lot of capabilities. We've got a range of 240 miles at full speed. She likes fuel. She drinks fuel like nobody's business, about 500 litres an hour. It sounds a little bit excessive. The reason we have a big amount of fuel we have to use is we have to put a lot of power into the boat to push her through the water, because she's not designed for speed. She's designed for sea keeping, and the trade-off is you have to put a lot of power through to move the boat through the water. A fast boat would normally be flat bottomed. A lifeboat's got a nice big V, so that's the trade-off. Costs us extra in fuel, but at least we know we can get there safely. The most valuable piece of equipment on any lifeboat is the local knowledge. We've got lads coming in from all over now, where normally your lifeboat crew is your local We don't have that luxury anymore. I'm local, this is my backyard, I know this like the back of my hand. Ex-Grimsby fisherman, I've fished the river, I've dived local, I've played local, and I've lived, and it gives you that little bit of an edge. And those skills we keep up. We never stop. We're always around sniffing around banks with the echo sound to see if it's changed, and just keeping our skills up. Now with the influx of crews from other lifeboat stations, we can now use that as a training aid. We can get people come from another lifeboat station and come to Humber and spend a bit of time with us, and because you've got a dedicated crew, we can give them a bit of intense training. We don't have to go to sea to be a lifeboatman. Every lifeboat lady who's out there collecting for me, everybody who's out there doing sponsored walks, swims, runs or anything, as far as I'm concerned, a part of my lifeboat crew. Anyone who goes out there and supports the RNLI is in the big crew, and that's the other thing, you don't have to go to sea. It's quite important to me, you know, that people know that. And all us lifeboatmen, you know, we are so humbled by what people will do to raise the funds for us. What I really believe why this big orange thing we're stood on works is right from the very top, right the way down to the bedrock of the people going out, is because everybody wants to do it. And it's that voluntary contributions and voluntary people going out and doing it why it works.
Got the tug, starboard side, and one on the inside of it.
Roger. This, where we are now, is believe it or not, is one of our biggest hazards in the river. We've got the Hale Sand Fort over on the south bank, and over here in the middle of the river here, we've got the Bull Sand Fort. The Bull Sand Fort, as you can see, the tide's absolutely whizzing around it. It's got a safety buoy either side of it to keep everything away from it, but we still get the odd one hit it and in the fog. But you've got the deep water channel that side, and you've also got a channel and an anchorage this side, so it's actually sat there. It was there as sentinel during the First and Second World War, and it's now looked as upon as a hazard, I would think. So, but you can see how quickly the tide is rushing around it, and all around the base of it there's rocks. That's just underneath the water, so that's why we have the two buoys either side of it, just to move everything around. Even though we have yourselves aboard today, if we have a PR job, they never stop. It's no secret, I'm quite a strong character. I don't like anything not being done properly. One of my mottos is do it once and do it right. And the lads know, and it's just now second nature that they'll be keeping a lookout all the time. They will be watching the navigation, they will be listening to the radios, they'll be looking at, as you've seen, they're all the time telling me. And it works. It works extremely well, and it's now our second nature. It's not a chore. There is no, oh God, the gaffer needs to know this or anything. It's just done without a second thought. It's that team. We always joke there's no I in team, and there isn't. You know, if any one of us fail to do our little bit within the team, the whole team will suffer, and then they get some stick from the others. But they love it when I make a mistake, so and I do when they make a mistake. So, but it's all done in fun and camaraderie. And by doing it with fun and camaraderie, when we are up against it, and at times we are, there's no shadow of a doubt, we have some very, very difficult times at sea. But it don't change. We come away with a little giggle sometimes and thinking, what on earth have we just done? But again, it's usually on a nicety. So there's some of the more simple ones. You get a lot of enjoyment from. A few years ago we went out 30 odd miles out into the North Sea in some pretty ropey weather, and there was a Dutch yacht. He'd had his sails were all blown out, and he'd been struggling and he was getting low on fuel. So we went out and we went alongside and we're chatting away to him, and I said to the skipper, would you like a tow to Grimsby, skipper? And he said, how much is that going to cost? And I says, it's not going to cost you a penny. and the actual look on his face is though his whole burden had just melted away, and that's kind of why we do it. It's not always pulling somebody from the jaws of death, it's just, it's quite special, yeah. And then because you get the ones who you know are really in the mire, and sometimes they will go away without even a thank you, because it's from one end of the spectrum to the other.
It can be pulling a fishing boat in that's broken down. We had a yacht the other day that was taken on water. Searches, a lot of the jobs off the Humber could be medical jobs off standby vessels or any of the cruise boats that are in and out of the Humber. So it's a variety, and when the pager goes off, you just don't know what you're going to.
In my short time here, we've pulled in a few yachts. The big one for me was the 2 divers about 9 miles off Withensea. All right, the weather conditions were fantastic, but the predicament the guys could have been in, it was nice to see the faces as you lifted them out of the water, you know, knowing that they actually appreciated it. It was really good.
We get a varied type of call out roundabout here. A lot of our work is doing medivacs, medical evacuations from the big ships that lie at anchor off here waiting to come into the Grimsby docks. If they have crew members that get hurt or anybody takes ill, then we do that. The transfer from the boat back into Grimsby. You get the local fishing fleet that if they get breakdowns and that, we go out, tow them in. We had a couple of divers recently we had to go and rescue because their craft had broken down and drifted off, so we had to go and search for the divers and pick them up, which was a good result.
Big emergency steering for exercise. We have a steering failure. Deck, you ready?
Yes, emergency steering's rigged.
Roger, hard to starboard.
Hard to starboard. Hard to starboard. Hard to starboard.
Roger. Amidships. We can do it. It's as crude as that, but it works so well. Hard to port. And if we was on a service and we lost steering, this is how we'd do it. We wouldn't stop, we would carry on.
We've just gone through a simulated emergency steering where we've lost all the hydraulics for the steering, so we actually do it physically by hand through the rigging that we've just used. The importance of practicing is if that happens on a shout, on a bad night, we can do it without thinking about it. You know, it's just well practiced, and it makes for good drills, really.
What we do now is we've done the fun bit. Now we've got to do some work. Which is the day job. I've got the lads have got some equipment to go through and check for date, everything's okay. Clankers have got some bits and bobs to do down the engine room again. Even when we've actually been out, there's a certain amount of checks to do before we actually go back ashore. If we'd have used any amount of fuel today, we would have been fueling up now. We like the tanks full, but we've only probably used 200 litres of fuel today, that's all. So you average 3 months worth on a car, but we've run the engines, we've drilled the crew, we know everything's working on the lifeboat, so when we've done a bits and bobs and we go ashore, we know she's ready if a call comes in. It's really important to have that trust. In the middle of the night when you're fast asleep and you know you can jump on and it's all there ready.
This is the engine room on the Humber lifeboat. My job as mechanic obviously is to maintain this and make sure that she's always ready for service whenever the page comes in. And today basically it's just a check of the main engine levels and that. Something that we do every time we come aboard. Obviously, like any engine in your car or your motorbike or whatever, then you need to make sure you've got plenty of oil in, plenty water in, and Also plenty fuel.
So what we've got to do every now and again is just get the first aid equipment out and check that it's sterile and everything's up to date. Also just in case we need it, if there's anything out of date, then we need to replace it. So we'll just quickly check through, make sure everything's in working order. So in each pocket we've got different bits of equipment. We've got dressings, got these like military grade. I think the class them as combat dressings. Alright, what else we've got? Fracture straps, again, if we need to, anybody with broken limbs, etc., we can use the fracture straps. Neck collars.
Yeah.
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 What else we do carries tourniquets.
That's the one.
If we've got serious bleeds, etc., or amputations. So we've got the oxygen in one side, Entonox in the other. Should just be sort of preset, ready to go, just in case. So we've got all sorts of bits of equipment in here, just in case we need to use the oxygen at any time.
Well, we've got several things we're checking at the moment. We've got 2 vents here. These are vents that go into the tiller flat, and we just need to check that they're free to operate. What we have is these vents that need to be closed off in the event of a fire. So we just need to check that the vents will close and the threads are lubricated. And also, just part of husbandry really, Mark's cleaning one of the fair leads, their brass fair leads. So just a clean of brass side, just to make sure they're nice and shiny. So.
A lot of my friends and that, you know, they say to me, "Oh, Dave, you know, you've been like, all you're doing is you're risking your life to help a load of idiots." No, there is no idiots out in the North Sea. There is some interesting, misguided people from all states, from the commercial side as well as way through the pleasure side. So you do get some really interesting ones. There's one chap nearly lost his yacht because he'd had a bag of prunes, he'd pulled the bag of prunes, they'd gone all over, but in the back of a yacht you've got drain holes, and all the prunes had gone into these drain holes, so he started to lose his yacht. These third ones, I get a lovely smile. 5 o'clock, all the badges come off, all the lot, we go into the, have a meal together. I'm adamant we all sit down for a meal together at the end of the day, and then we put our feet up and watch the telly, and as any group of people would. I'll have to retire one day. I'm not going to be an old codger going up and down the jetty with a Zimmer frame, because that's not fair on the crew. But no, it's 20 odd years at Spurn Point. No, you can take the man out of Spurn Point, but you ain't going to take Spurn Point out of me.